I'm Randy Reeves, Undersecretary for Memorial Affairs for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Our vision in the National Cemetery Administration is to ensure that no veteran ever dies. You know, we say that each person dies two deaths. They die the first time when breath leaves them, but they only die truly in the future, sometime when people stop saying their name and telling their story. The Veterans Legacy Memorial is an ideal way to tell the story, to let people know about those who served our country, those who wore the cloth of this nation. And we do it in such a format that anyone, anywhere can access that information online or even in the cemeteries where our heroes rest. That's why it's so important. That's why it's so unique. As we move forward, the Veterans Legacy Memorial platform will actually be able to add more information so we can see what those service members did for our country. I hope in the future we'll even be able to add information about what they did after leaving service. Tell their stories, talk about them, because each and every person that serves in the United States military, they serve to make sure that our country is safe. But then when they leave military service, I would argue that each and every person who has served probably makes even a greater contribution to their community and to their country after leaving military service. That military service that is the foundation of the service that they will do for this country for the rest of their life. Well, currently we have our Veterans Gravesite Locator, which is being able to be built upon so that we already have a database that lists where those service members and their family members are buried or interred in our national cemeteries. With that data, then we are able to build a Veterans Legacy Memorial to be able to add information to an even more expansive and more accessible database that tells the larger story of the veteran instead of just telling what their name is and where they are interred. Memorialization goes further than a headstone. It goes further than providing a place with the person's name and where they're buried. It goes to telling the story. You'll hear me say that over and over again, that we're telling the story. That's why our veterans and their family members, those who especially who have worn the cloth of this nation, will be able to be remembered because people will tell their story. They'll talk about them. One of the most touching stories that I've heard throughout this whole program is I was speaking to a student, a graduate student in Florida. And that student was a veteran himself. And I asked him, I said, what do you take away from this program? What touched you the most? And his words were simply, I was able to bring my veteran back to life. He did research on one of the veterans in Florida National Cemetery. And that veteran had been basically lost to history, or at least his story. All there was a headstone, but through research, he found that this African-American man who had lived in his community for many years with nobody knowing anything about him had been a hero of World War I, and he had served valiantly, but that story was not being told, and now it is. Our job is to make sure we honor forever our service members, those who are killed in action, those who served for long periods of time and retired, those who may have served 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, or 30 or more years. Those are the people who are the fabric of this nation. They may have died in battle, or they may have been the lucky ones like me that came back. But their stories are important. We wouldn't be standing here today without them. The Veterans Legacy Memorial is so important to that because it's taking it to the next step. And why it's important to VA is it is an important part of meeting our obligation, our sacred duty to honor and remember those who gave us everything we've got.